are Pro Cannabis Media.
Hi, everyone. Welcome again to a very special edition of In the Weeds with Jimmy Young. We are on location at the Javits Center in New York City, the Big Apple. Probably not my favorite place to be, except when there's a cannabis conference here in New York City. And I'm joined by two people that I have a tremendous amount of respect for. And if you know anything about the cannabis industry, you know about ArcView Group. This is probably the group you want to get involved with if you are involved with any kind of smart investment, because these guys have been in this space for longer than most. And I'm talking about Gene Sullivan and I'm talking about Jeff Finkel. Jeff and I are old friends from our Ute in Newton, Massachusetts, so we're going to ignore him for a second and talk to Gene. Gene, first of all, how do you put up with Jeff? No, seriously, how exciting is it to be in your city of New York at a in-person cannabis convention and to see the excitement and the electricity that's in the air here?
It's about time is one thing I would say. We've been waiting in New York to make cannabis happen for many, many years. And as you know, New York State has had a huge multi-year history of very bad draconian, problems and practices arresting young brown and black men and boys. That's actually what fired me up to get into the business because, you know what, I admit this freely, I actually believed in the war on drugs. I thought you weren't supposed to use, partake, or anything in this, so I am very accidental, and that's what happened to me. I did the research. I learned that we still arrest 600,000 people a year. This is terrible, but being a long-time investor, I saw this was the next big thing.
And Jeff, as someone who's also been around, do you share that enthusiasm? Is this the next? To me, it's already here. Now it's just a question of where it goes.
You know, to Gene's point, it's equally a social revolution as it is an economic one. And I would say that, as an early stage investor for the last 25 years, I was sort of looking for a new sector to practice my craft. I had a relationship with the plant when I was younger, and I took a hiatus for many, many years. But what I realized once I got into it, sort of through my economic lens, how important it really was to facilitate this industry to move forward, to free the plant and to free the people who are partaking in the plant. So I'm in full agreement.
It's a combination of a few worlds colliding here. The cannabis industry, social injustice, economics. You've got the whole CBD thing that no one seems to have any kind of direction. How frustrating is it that it is still federally illegal? You've got a conservative Supreme Court judge who said our laws are contradictory, and you guys still have to stay in business and look for companies to acquire and build. It's not the easiest challenge, is it?
No, I do believe we're stupid and silly as a country. Look at what Canada did. They understood this could build wealth and wellness. And for us to have 50 different fiefdoms, each state with a different law, this is crazy making. So that does make it very hard. I'm very hopeful we can break through on those kinds of crazy laws. Let's open it up. And for me, one of the number one laws to change is around safe banking. Who doesn't want safe banking? So that part is completely out of control. We're very hopeful for change there.
Are you optimistic, Jeff, at all? I mean, I look at what goes on in our political system, and it's never been more divisive in my lifetime. I remember the 60s. And, another reason why I, too, am so passionate about the social injustice that we have an opportunity to right and get better and make improvements on. Are you confident we're going to get anything done at the federal level?
Oh, yeah, but it's not going to happen in 2 years. I think there was a lot of hope, and you've seen this in how the public cannabis stocks have declined from, a rebound from March of 2020. There was a lot of hope with the Biden administration, with the Dems winning the House and the Congress, prior to the midterms, that there would be real demonstrable progress towards repeal of prohibition. It's not happening. It's going to happen. The cat is out of the bag, but it's not anytime soon. And all you really need to do is look at the history of social change, if you look at the suffrage movement, if you look at gay marriage, if you look at repeal of alcohol prohibition, it's always around the time that 2/3 of states adopt that federal repeal is soon to happen. Right now, I think we're at 74% of states that have some program, whether it's medical or adult rec. We're well past that. It's going to happen, but if you're in this for the long game, you're going to put up with the fact that that's not there. And I would argue that there's even opportunity for investors prior to repeal prohibition before traditional institutional capital comes in. So from a business standpoint, I'm fine with the 4 to 5 year wait.
So, keying off of that, let's talk a little bit about New York. Do you know that New York is the largest legacy market in the world, and mostly right here in New York City? On a conservative basis, it's thought to be possibly $5 billion, probably more. It's highly organized. So, here's something that I learned from Steve D'Angelo, who is somebody I just really care for. He taught me that even in alcohol prohibition, it still took 20 years for all the bootleg alcohol to dissipate. Isn't that interesting?
You're 10 years into California, where the illicit market's still 4 times the legal market. So it's slowly eating away at it, but it's going to take a long time.
So here's what is exciting. Even though there is this federal prohibition problem, and I'm in agreement with Jeff, I once thought, I had my crystal ball and thought it would have happened even by now, because Chuck Schumer, our very senator, really wants it. And Jerry Nadler, who's my congressman, he really wants it. And you know, with New York, job creation, revenue opportunity for the state, tax revenue, I'm very disappointed. However, each state can make their own laws, and that's what happened. On March 31st, Cuomo finally signed under pressure that MRTA law. Now it's our chance. And takes a woman, Kathy Hochul, our new governor, to say, I'm going to make up for lost time. We love that. Sure enough, within 2 weeks, she announced the Cannabis Control Board and the new heads. We like that. So now, as New York, we are hopeful we can do it right. You know, Thomas Edison said, there's always a better way to do something. Find it. Let's find it as a state and try and do it better. Some of these rules and regs are terrible. In California, still fighting through a big legacy market and very harsh regulations. Same with many other states. Let's do it better in New York, and just now, Tremaine Wright promised for that. That's her hope.
Yeah, she's a ball of fire and a great choice. Everybody's very excited about that. What's the vision for ArcView, and what role do you see this company and institution playing in this industry?
You know, we have a long history. So as you know, ArcView was founded by Steve D'Angelo and Troy Dayton. They were policy guys, they were activists. It was really all about freeing the plant and facilitating the growth of the industry. They quickly realized in order to do so, they had to facilitate the economic growth of the industry, and they started to create these events and an investor network where people could come and meet, see companies, and fund them. And for 9 years, that's what the company did. In 2019, a private equity group came in, took control of ArcView with the ideas to transition this great brand that stood for all of these great things into a financial services firm. So we created a venture capital arm, we created a broker-dealer arm called ArcView Capital, and we created a consulting company called ArcView Management Consulting. So today, if you had to think about what we are, we're an integrated financial services company buoyed by thought leadership through the events that we produce, mostly digital events now, given COVID, but in the future some live events, with the ideas to keep our thought leadership high and have the industry benefit from those subsidiaries to help economic growth and companies to raise money and succeed. So that's sort of what we think, how our role in the industry will be going forward. Thought leadership and real actionable subsidiaries that will help facilitate capital finding companies.
Multi-state operators are necessary operators in a new industry like we have in cannabis. They take a lot of heat because they have the most money in the game. They're usually the first players in new states because they are structured for that, ready to go. They have it all set up. How important is it to see a change in how MSOs do business as far as workforce development goes and the social equity applicants? If we expunge all these hundreds of thousands of records, how are we going to train all these people that had been incarcerated by the failed war on drugs to become active members of the industry, not just society, but also of the industry? Do you want to see programs attached to that, and are you starting to see that?
Well, as you probably realize, even in the New York statute, now the regs are not out yet, but there's a really considered opinion to have at least baseline 50% be social equity applicants. So what about financing? Do they know how to get financing? Do they understand the education? Do they have the education and knowledge to build? So this is needed to make it all work. Now, let's face it, a lot of the MSOs have actually been quietly saying, you know, this part is crazy, but now they are jumping in. I know for fact the wonderful MSOs like Cresco, Curaleaf, GTI are active with programs to even bring something called a community benefit plan to the table. This is important. So we're hopeful that those programs and plans can happen, and ArcView can play a part in that too.
Socially responsible capitalism seems to be at work here, and you think that there's a future for this too, right?
Yeah, for sure. But even at the university level, so Oaksterdam University has a cannabis education program. LIM, which our own Sarah Falvo from the ArcView Group is part of creating that curriculum, is all about creating these programs to educate the next generation cannabis workers, from cultivation through processing, through retail, through science and genetics. So it's happening. It's happening slowly, but you can point to demonstrable progress in that area.
Well, Gene and Jeff, first of all, great to see both of you together, face to face, unmasked, all vaccinated, in a comfortable environment. I can't express how excited I get when that happens alone. Jeff knows me pretty well to know I just love hanging around people and talking to them. So I appreciate you taking the time. I wish you both a lot of work ahead of you, and also the best of luck. We all need it, and we're all in it together, which is what this plant is all about. And it's why I end all my little podcasts with the same kind of thing. It's a whole new world of weed out there, people. Use it responsibly. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to another edition of In the Weeds with Jimmy Young.
Weed Talk and In the Weeds are two productions of Pro Cannabis Media supported by Revolutionary Clinics, one of the top medical cannabis dispensaries in the Massachusetts area, now with 3 locations in Greater Boston, 2 in Cambridge and 1 on Broadway in Somerville. Rev Clinics has a patient-first mission. They will customize your needs as a medical patient with the proper titration and combination of strains, flavors, and products. Rev Clinics, where the patient comes first.
Difference is building a solution for that individual. Not just a custom, here's a box, here's a video, here's how you make your VMS. We custom design and custom build every situation for exactly what the customer needs. And we keep the costs low. We have multiple tiers, as far as what you're looking at on the cost side of things. If you want a one-time, where you just pay one initial cost, we have that. If you want to maintain your system and have the highest protection and highest capabilities and highest upgrades at all times, we have different plans for you. But we scale it so it's scalable and affordable 100%.
Pro Cannabis Media programming is available live and on demand on our Facebook page at Pro Canna Media, on Instagram at Pro Cannabis Media, on LinkedIn also at Pro Cannabis Media, on YouTube and YouTube Live on Pro Cannabis Media, Twitter at Pro Canna Media, and on twitch.tv/Pro Cannabis Media. So like, share, and subscribe to all of our content, newsletters, and shows live or on demand.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.